On February of 1976, my father had called a family meeting in our family home to discuss his plans for the near future. He discussed his plan to apply for a U.S. visa so he can earn more money for his family of 12. My eldest uncle pleaded with my father not to go and refused to apply for the visa himself, not knowing of the opportunities that existed there. They began to argue, but the argument came to a halt when my grandmother interrupted, giving my father permission to apply for the visa. My dad owned 2 factories, and because of the hot climate in India, business was booming. He decided to move to America to earn better money and be able to give his children a future he wasn't able to achieve for himself. India's population at the time was still pretty large, and the only problems that existed there were the Hindu-Muslim conflict and family problems. Even though my dad didn't want to leave his homeland, he had to make this important decision for the sake of his family. He was sad to leave his family back home, but was excited and hopeful to see what his future would bring. After a long process, my dad had finally received his visa, and after a long 25 hours of flying, he finally arrived to Chicago on October 6, 1977. When he first arrived, he toured the city, admiring the high-rise buildings he'd never seen and clean paved roads. After a couple of days of touring the city, he had to look for a job. In doing so, he landed a job at a laundry press. Even though he struggled to communicate, he managed to snag a second job at a gas station. A couple months later, he realized he had more free time and so he applied for a job at the Solo Plastic Company and was able to get that job as well. Some struggles he faced were the cold winters of Chicago and transportation. He disliked American food, and at the time there weren't any Indian shops or restaurants. Indian shops and restaurants opened later around 1980. Finally, with 3 good-paying jobs, he was able to send money to his family back home every week. He was blessed to have his first daughter on January 12, 2000. With the money that he saved, he was able to invest in buildings and apartments and would give them for rent. With the flowing income, he was able to buy his own home and become a support for his siblings to come to America as well. Today, he's retired and has successfully been able to call all his siblings and has a successful business located on Devon Avenue.